An Apple a Day by Hyperme. Chapter 11. So the bet is over then, Misa-chan?
Yeah.
And Raito-sensei won?
Yeah. It's obvious, though, that Raito-sensei didn't exactly win.
What do you mean?
Think about it, Kiyomi-chan. Have you seen Raito-sensei lately? He's acting like his mother just died. He's sulky, depressed, and his defenses are higher than they normally are. He's beating himself over winning the bet.
I've noticed he's been throwing himself into his work lately. He's a workaholic as much as it is, but now he's just overdoing it. He's making us work 4 hours after normal closing time.
I hope Raito-sensei gets himself out of this cycle soon.
Raito panicked as he realized that was the last patient of the day. He looked at the clock and nearly screamed when he saw it was only 10:30. He needed something to do. Raito grabbed a washcloth from the sink and cleaned the counters, his medical utensils, and the cabinets for the 5th time that day. He just needed something to keep himself busy. There was a knock at the door, and Raito jumped at the sound of it.
Raito-sensei?
Misa called in.
Kiyomi-chan and I are leaving now. Go home already.
Raito set down the washcloth and opened the door. He flicked off the light switch and smiled at Misa. "You're right. I need some sleep." She frowned at him.
You look skinnier than usual, Raito-sensei. Are you eating well enough?
He laughed, hating how fake it sounded. "Who's the doctor here, Misa-chan? I believe I know enough about health to make sure that I'm healthy." He hung his white coat on the rack in the closet and locked every door before following Kiyomi and Misa out of the main entrance. He locked that as well. "I'll see you tomorrow," he called out to them as he walked to his car. They answered his goodbye, and Raito stepped into his car. He shoved the keys in the ignition, twisting the key, and immediately turning the radio on. Music blasted loudly, making Raito's ears hurt, but he ignored it as he drove back toward his parents' house.
"And now, a request from a listener!"
the radio DJ said cheerfully.
"Izumi from Osaka sends out a message to his sweetheart Mizuki with this song!"
A soft melody started to play, and Raito groaned at it. "Again! This song is at least 5 years old! What's with the new obsession with it?" "Hopelessly, I'm in love with you endlessly. Hopelessly, I'll give you everything. But I won't give you love, I won't let you down, and I won't leave you falling. But the moment never comes." Raito pulled into his father's driveway an hour and a half later, and during that time span had encountered that same stupid song 5 more times. He entered the house and tiptoed his way to his room, not to bother his family. He wasn't so lucky, of course. "Raito?" He locked eyes with his little sister, peeking around her bedroom door. "Yes, are you?" "I was talking with Misa-chan the other day, and she mentioned that your stalker patient hasn't been seen for the past 2 Tuesdays. Is that true?" "So you," he growled through gritted teeth, "I suggest you go to bed." "But no!" "Good night, Raito." It took nearly all of Raito's strength not to slam the door in her face. The noise would wake his parents, he reminded himself. He didn't bother to undress and plopped on gracefully onto his bed. It has been 2 weeks since the date with Elle. He glanced at the clock to see it change to midnight. 2 weeks exactly he had told Elle that he was not in love with him. Elle took the loss well and stepped out of his life as quickly as he had entered. If Elle had not set his cell phone, or if he had decided to give him one last kiss after his loss, things would be different. Raito would not be lying on a cold, empty bed, biting his lip just to feel the pain. Instead, he would be warm and safe inside the arms of his favorite patient, smiling, laughing even. Raito bit his lip harder, feeling blood drip down his chin. He'd been this way for 14 days now. He'd been biting his lip so the pain would distract himself from crying again for 14 days now. He's been keeping himself busy so thoughts of messy raven hair, deep black eyes, bad posture, and sugar fetish would not plague his mind for 14 days now. Elle would never be back. If this was 14 days, how will he survive for the rest of his life? Raito curled up into a ball and hugged his pillow. He'd been in a constant cycle for these past 2 weeks. Wake up with tear streaks on pillows and face, get dressed and ready to leave the house before anyone else is up, go to work listening to music, work nonstop for 13 hours while cleaning during lunch break, go home listening to music, fall asleep with a bleeding lip, 13 hours a day isn't an easy feat, and Raito felt some remorse for having Misa and Kiyomi work those long hours even on the weekends. But Raito can't stop for more than a few seconds. The harder he pushed himself during the day, the easier it'll be to fall asleep. Of course, that didn't mean exhaustion would stop dreams from attacking him. Raito had a hard time ignoring them. There was one other thing that was difficult to ignore. It was that stupid song. The words, the melody, it struck Raito's heart and ate at it like L would do to cake. Raito trembled at his own analogy and pushed it away from his mind. Misa had somehow seen the inner torment he was been going through and knew that he needed to keep his mind on something other than him. She brought a radio and hooked it to the intercom. Unfortunately, the #1 hit these days made Raito want to bawl his eyes out while eating chocolate ice cream, and with an intercom in every room, escape was impossible. He had begged Misa to bring a CD, but her stereo had a broken CD player and could only play the radio. On average, Raito would hear endlessly at least 36 times a day, and that's not including the drive to and from work. Raito held on tighter to his pillow as he subconsciously sang the song under his breath, luring himself to sleep. It almost became a routine now. Raito rushed to the front desk and looked hopefully at Kiyomi. The nurse glanced up at him and shook her head. His face faltered. "Sorry, Raito-sensei," she said sadly. "It's a full schedule." "Oh, well," he smiled. "Then I best get ready. I shall see you soon, Kiyomi-chan." Raito walked into his examination room and closed the door behind him, leaning up against it. Kiyomi had begun to come into work early 2 days after the date when she learned that Raito had been up bright and early to check the schedule. He knew she knew who he was looking for. It wasn't too hard not to know. Raito didn't trust L to withhold his side of the deal and would visit him anyway. But he has yet to overstep the rules. He kept a close eye on it, though, even when it wasn't Tuesdays, just in case L decided to surprise him. His name hadn't been on the list for these past 14 days. Music swayed through the intercom and filled up the room. "Hopelessly, I love you endlessly." "Kiyomi-chan, could you please turn the music off?" Raito called through the door. "Sorry, Raito-sensei, I just thought..." The music was cut off, and Raito slid down the door, resting his head in between his knees.